I don't remember a time when I didn't realize I wanted to be an artist. As soon as I could pick up a pencil, I was drawing. So as long as I could remember, every decision I made in my life, as far as a career, was pointed towards that. My name is Kelly Donovan. I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. My family life growing up was probably atypical. My father in 1964 went to Vietnam and came up missing in action, so I was basically raised without my dad. My family, especially my mother, when she realized that I could draw and paint and stuff like that at a very early age, was very supportive of that, to the detriment of my poor brothers and sisters. If I needed art supplies, I got it. If they needed a toy, maybe they didn't get it so much. What helped me to realize that being an artist could be a real viable way to make a living was when I grew up in Colorado, and in Colorado, every little town has their Founders Day art show. I started doing art shows when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I started winning awards when I was that young, and so that kind of helped me to know that this is what I could do. It's not an easy way to make a living. I think the ones that end up making a living in art or dance or music or movies are the ones who stick it out and endure. But I always knew that somehow I would make a living at art. At times I wanted to be an illustrator, times I wanted to be a police artist, a sketch artist, a court artist. I can do all that stuff. But my love was always Western art. My grandmother kept everything I ever drew from the time she said 2 years old. In those drawings, you can see pictures of cowboys. And so for whatever reason, ingrained in my mind is the Old West. I met my wife in 1985 after serving a mission for my church. And in all this time, in 30 years since then, she's never doubted my ability to make this thing happen. Her mother always reacted pretty well to my decision to be an artist. As far as I'm concerned, it was never a decision because I was always going to do it. But her dad was always, he was a practical farming guy, and all your ducks had to be laid in a row, and I don't operate that way. I jump over a couple ducks or whatever. But so there were a couple times when we didn't know where our next check was coming from. That he even told her one time, "Why don't you tell that guy to get a job?" But soon after that, things really started to take off, and he did come and apologize to me for that. So after that, the support was always there. When the housing market crashed in 2008, my income in 1 year was cut in half. The next year after that, it was cut in half again. There were several times when I was thinking about, going out and finding a job, a solid every week paycheck job, and I would get on my knees and I'd pray about it. And every time it would be, just keep doing what you're doing. I didn't hear those words, but those were the feelings that I got. Just keep doing what you're doing, everything will be fine. And every time we needed it, it was there. And we'd get these sales, and I always, even to today, every time I make a sale, it's a very humbling experience. And to me, I call them miracles. And so, because the first thing people quit buying in financial troubles are luxuries, and art's a luxury for sure. It's been a blessing because when the kids started doing their plays in the high school, they needed someone to do backdrops. I was there to be able to do that. And I don't know if I would trade that kind of freedom for a steady weekly paycheck. I was doing a show down in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was a 10-week show that I had to be there for 10 weeks. I still had all my children at home. I think my youngest was probably 4 or 5. And that was a struggle because, my oldest were teenage girls, and they just didn't have their support that they needed from me because I was 800 miles away at this show. And the struggle came because I did very well at the show. And I had to make a decision. I did it 2 years, and I had to make a decision that third year whether it was worth going down there and making half of my year's wages at one show, or being here to support my kids. And having hindsight, it was the best decision because I was here and the kids needed me. So that's the only time where I felt like I needed to juggle my career and my family. Most of my paintings start out as sketches just in my book here. Okay, here's one for instance. This is just drawn out of my head. And then I go through my photo files and find photographs that match each of the individuals and horses in the background and stuff. And that painting there is, of course, the finished product of this. And so what I do is I will make my sketch, then I'll find the photographs, and then I'll compose it, and then I'll put it on the canvas, and I'll, like, this was one different picture, the background was another different picture, foreground was a separate picture, and each, you know, the hay wagon was of course one picture, but probably 15 different photographs I used to do this painting. Sometimes something will affect the way I paint, and I'll get in what I call a funk, and I just can't. I'll come in here and I'll just twiddle my thumbs or start playing Scrabble on my phone, or, you know, just something. I just can't stay focused. And so the best way for me to combat that is to either go to a movie where all the designing is done and I can just sit down and relax it and let my brain clean itself out, or I'll go to Jackson Hole and go to the galleries and get revamped by what's going on up there and seeing where the competition is and what kind of frames are now selling, and just get my juices flowing like that again. So there are times when, I don't know if it's kind of like writer's block, only artist block or whatever, and you just kind of have to battle through it. A professional will just battle through it. If I had to give advice to somebody coming up in the arts, and I will say for me specifically in the fine art business, but it can apply to other things, is that just, number one, stay true to who you are. Two, never give up. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it, because you can, and I'm living proof of that. It's hard, it can be frustrating, and it can be draining on you physically and mentally, but you can do it. The last thing is that the people who make it in the arts are the ones who get past the struggle. So just keep your nose to the grindstone and go. That's my advice.